Hello, everybody. This is round two. Patricia Young and I are about to have a conversation on vulnerability. And we just tried to do Facebook Live just now. And part of what happens is with Facebook Live is you're live and you get to see all the imperfection of the moment, including technical difficulties. So, hi, Audra. Thanks for joining. Where are you joining us from, Audra? Will you let us know in the comments? So Patricia just joined us, so I'm going to send her an invitation. And we're going to see if we can make it happen. Hey, Patricia.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, good. Good to see you. We made it work.
Yeah. Hey, Audra, how are
you? Stacy's joined us. Audra's joining us from Colorado Springs.
Laura?
Cool.
It's a party.
Yeah. And if people want to tell us where they're joining from, that's awesome. Hi, Shannon. Thanks for the heart, Stacy. Hi, Laura. So where are you, Patricia?
I'm in San Diego. I'm just down the coast from you.
Cool. I've never been there. What's it like in San Diego?
It's sunny with the beach. It's warmer than where you're at, right?
Yeah, San Francisco is kind of chilly.
Nice there. Hey, Shannon. Hey, Corinna.
Shannon from New Jersey. I didn't know you were from New Jersey, Shannon. I'm from New Jersey too.
Stacy,
and Laura from South Carolina. Yeah, what are you cooking, Stacy? So Patricia, I'm really excited to chat with you because you and I have become Facebook friends and we've never met or even really chatted that much. And so I'm excited that we get to talk right now, especially about this topic of vulnerability, which is one that's a passion for you, right?
It is, and for you too.
Yeah, I guess it is.
It is.
So I'm curious, like, when did that focus become so important to you?
I think it always has been, but it's probably been as I've been focusing on my ideal client and kind of niching down. And probably as, I think through the years we go through stages of our own healing as we grow and develop as therapists. And I think this most recent phase has really been about showing up and just being exactly where I'm at in the moment, imperfections and all, and just embracing that.
Yeah. I love it. And you say you're talking about your ideal client, and for you, you're a psychotherapist, right?
Therapist.
Yes. So, and I am too. So the two of us are kind of part of some of the same Facebook communities around, how are we marketing ourselves to clients who are going to most benefit from our services and our gifts and our wisdom and passion. And so when you say niching down, it's about being specific about who it is that you're calling out to, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Joel. Hey, Jax.
Yay. So, and since we're on the topic, I'm curious, who is your ideal client?
Well, it's a successful woman who from the outside looks like she's got everything all together, but is afraid that people are going to really see what a hot mess she feels like she is. I think that what's underneath that is that fear of, if you really saw who I am with all my flaws and imperfections, you'd go running, screaming the other way. And how much as women we feel that pressure to keep everything going and look shiny and pretty and say the right thing, and feeling like we can't show up and be who we are and say what we feel because it's not condoned by society. It's not, we're not polite ladies. We do that.
I love it. Audra's saying, so all of us.
That's LOL hot mess, relatable. Absolutely.
That's so cool. So most of your clients are in this category?
They are. I'm just building my private practice right now. I have clients through an agency and just got my website up and my promotional video out. Shout out to Ernesto Segismundo. Yay. So this is the area I'm heading toward, but it's really what I'm passionate about, mostly because, I grew up with that, be nice, be polite, don't hurt people's feelings, don't say what you think, don't say what you mean, try and hold it all together. And that really didn't work out so well for me. I don't think it works out for anybody. And
When
so really,
is it?
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, when is it that you realized that that wasn't working for you?
I think I've always been a truth teller. And I just wasn't around my own tribe. And so I just really felt like it for most of my life. And I'd say what I thought, and people would look at me like they didn't get it. And it just made me feel more alienated. So the reason why I feel so strongly about this is I really want for men and women. I spoke mostly about women because I am one and I know about them. And I don't have a lot of men coming telling me that they're worried that they're going to look like a big hot mess. So that's why I speak mostly to women, but really wanting people to have that sense of connection and belonging, and knowing that there's such power when we're able to speak our truth and we find our tribe and have other people that really support us in being who we are and saying what we mean and feel, and how powerful that can be when we step away from that having to look nice and trying to figure out what everybody's expecting from us and being who we are.
I love that. And actually, speaking of who you are, I wonder if I see that you're moving more towards the center, because it was cutting off part of your face.
That I can do here.
So, all right, you're perfectly in the middle now. Awesome. Now I can see you. You're so radiant. Thank you for doing.
Like my butt's on half of the chair and the other half is in the air because of the way my office is set up. But we'll do it for as long as I'm going to have to remove again.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, do what you need to do to be comfortable, by all means. We've got a few comments just from what you've just been saying. Shannon says she can really relate to feeling and being a truth teller. And Karina is saying, I'm in the UK and it's 3 a.m. here, so I might not be on for very long. But she's saying hi. So what does that mean to be a truth teller?
I think that we all, when we trust, I think that we all really know. It's kind of our bullshit detector. And I think that we all really know what the truth is in a situation. And how many times have you been in a situation where you're having a dialogue with someone and you're thinking, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go talk to my best friend about this because this is the weirdest conversation I've ever been in, or you think that person's full of shit, or something just isn't right. But the way that I was raised is we don't talk about that. So you smile and you nod politely and you're having this conversation that really doesn't make sense, and you're having an entire dialogue running through your head at the same time, but you don't say what's on your mind. And I really think being a truth teller means that, we talk about what we're seeing and feeling and what our intuition is telling us. It takes a lot of courage. And I think especially, I'm just reading what Jax is saying. It means to not avoid the elephant in the middle of the room. Absolutely. And, I think that we're raised to not do that. We're supposed to be polite. And I think especially with women, there's so much pressure to keep the peace, to not have conflict. And then conflict makes us feel uncomfortable. And once we can move through that, it's an ongoing process. It's so powerful and liberating to know that you can show up and say what's in your heart and on your mind.
Absolutely. And I think...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said to break the shame. Is that what you said?
Break the shame. I think that's such a huge thing. That the perfectionism and looking good is about not having shame. And the shame says, I'm perfect and I'm not liking what I'm hearing right now. And, those are things that we're not supposed to say, because that's not what polite ladies say.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how when we're honest and real, that there's a risk to that, and that there's also a risk to not being honest and real.
Yeah. We end up abandoning ourselves. If we know what we're thinking and feeling and we don't say it. Let me back up. People have to earn the right to have you tell the truth and to be vulnerable with them. And so to do this with everybody is not a good idea. So you need the people that you're going to choose to do this with need to have earned the right to hear that. But when we don't share what down in ourselves and we're not being true to ourselves, and it just feeds the shame even more. So, yeah.
That's a really good point, that it is a gift to offer someone your own realness. And that it's because of the risk involved, there needs to be a certain level of trust there,
Sure.
that my truth is going to be held by you. At least we don't have to agree, but at least in a way that you're allowing me to be my own individual self, and respect that I'm coming from whatever place I'm coming from.
Sure. And what happens is the depth in the relationships just grows exponentially. It's a process to be able to speak your truth and to find people that are able to respond to that. But there's so much power in the depth that grows in connection, and the depth through the imperfection is just kind of amazing. And what happens is it really gives us permission to show up and be exactly who we are and where we're at.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
I'm feeling right now the imperfection of right now I have a headache and I'm tired. And before we did this, you and I were chatting about maybe doing this tonight, and then we decided to do it. And it was funny because I went through this decision-making process of but I don't feel perfect right now. Maybe I shouldn't do it. And then I realized, well, right, but that's not the purpose of being in the world, is to be perfect. And just being here. And I think I might be even a little bit more comfortable because I'm not trying as hard because I don't feel great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I was listening to your podcast with Annie Schuessler on Therapist Clubhouse. You did such a great job with that, by the way, and
Thank
talk
you.
about modesty. So if you haven't listened to it, you guys tune into Therapist Clubhouse and listen to Lauren's conversation with Annie Schuessler about the population that she works with. But one of the things that I love that you said is how you're taking the symptoms that you have with your MS and you bring that into the room with that client, and how much the clients really appreciate that. Hey, nice to see you. I have to say it's hard, it's distracting. I want to see what the comments are, but then I'm going to thought if I'm thinking, so it's really a way of learning.
Yes.
So anyways, thanks for your comments. I really appreciate that. And I think that there's so much power. I think that as therapists, we're taught that we have to pretend like we're not going through stuff. And even tonight I saw a client. I yawn a lot with my clients, and I'm fidgety. And I just own it. And, I said, it has nothing to do with you. I'm squirmy. I yawn. I hope it doesn't offend you. And it seems like it makes people really comfortable. And I think there's such a taboo. But even what you were sharing is that, it allows your clients to be more relaxed and more authentic, and, to have whatever's going on in the room, to have that be part of the process. And that's the magic.
It really is the magic. And I think, I do talk about letting my symptoms be what they are with my clients, but I don't think that they know that that's happening. They have no idea. Most of my clients don't even know what my diagnosis is. Most of them know I have a health condition, because sometimes in the past I've had to cancel because of medical treatment. But it's interesting to just, it's sort of an inside job in many ways, because the therapy is not about me, but it's about showing up for them. And I think that makes it a little bit harder in a way. And I'm wondering for you, because being a therapist, you're someone who cares about vulnerability. And generally, we don't disclose very much about ourselves as therapists. I mean, we can disclose a little bit, but most of the sessions about the client. So how do you handle being a vulnerable person, but also being a therapist during that hour?
I'm really big on self-disclosure, as long as with the intention that it's of the benefit to the client. And this has been a hard one for me, in the sense that the way that I was trained is we don't do that, and that to share about yourself is self-indulgent. And what my experience has been, hey Melinda, so glad you're here. What my experience has been is that my clients love it. And every time when I self-disclose, because I still had that in the back of my head that's you shouldn't be saying anything, I often will check it out with my client. How was that for you, hearing that information? And I have never had someone tell me that they felt like it was too much. And I've shared, my concern isn't if it feels overwhelming, we'll talk about it. What every single person tells me is that it's validating. They don't feel like they're, you know, it's nice to see that somebody else struggles with it. And it's been very positive. It really gives my clients an opportunity to feel like it's okay to be who they are. And a lot of the time, people don't talk about their anxiety and depression. And so hear that somebody else, I struggle with depression, I struggle with anxiety, have ADHD, got all kinds of, have a great gene pool. It's wonderful. But I'm willing to share that because I've had my own, and I get it. I know what it's like. And I feel like we go through things, and as long as we're not in it and help us get out of it, if I'm out of it and can share strength, I will share those things. And it's really been a positive experience. And I've talked to a lot of other therapists who have shared that, you know, it can be, you bring that into the room.
I love that. Yeah. And I love the question that you brought up after you share, which is, what's it like for you to hear this? Because that's a time for you to get feedback. And that I also love to ask that question myself about, did it feel weird? Because sometimes it feels weird. And I think, like you, most of my clients love to hear as much. They want to hear so much about me. And so it's about finding that balance and not over disclosing and taking up the space, but also being willing to show myself and show, like when a client does ask. I remember when I was first diagnosed, I was very private about my diagnosis because I hadn't integrated it yet. And I knew that would be too much for me to share. But now that it's been a few years, I actually am intentional about saying it like I'm saying I'm left-handed. So it's like, oh yeah, I have multiple sclerosis, and I'm modeling that, yeah, that's a thing that people have. And it's not this precious subject. It's more just, I have it. And then if they have something, or if later down the line they get diagnosed, they know that that's an okay way to talk about it. Isn't sort of just like, yep, happy to share.
Yeah, I think
and so Shannon is saying that I think there's a little time delay right now, but I'd love to hear what you're going to say.
No, go ahead. Fine, go ahead. You were going to read Shannon's comment.
So Shannon said, that's how we get sober in AA, sharing our experience, strength, and hope with each other and our sponsors. So in AA, Shannon's saying, like, when we are vulnerable with each other and honest and share what's really been happening in our lives, that's what connects us. This is what I'm getting out of what you're saying, Shannon, that's what connects us and strengthens us and allows us to mentor one another.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's the power of the 12-step groups, that people show up and they tell the truth about what's going on, that's the connection and belonging. I think everybody wants to have that sense of belonging and connection, and the things about us, you know, I love this expression of what's wrong with you is what's right with you. And I was always told, you're too sensitive, you think too much, you're too analytical. It's like, yeah, those things make me a great therapist. And I think that when we grow up with those shaming statements, we end up thinking, what's wrong with us? And those are really what our superpowers are. And being able to find your tribe and find people that validate and honor that, where I think what often happens before we get recovery or therapy or we understand is we tend to attract more people that tell us what's wrong with us and reinforce that, so that we really feel bad about ourselves, which is why I have such a passion about really wanting people to feel great about, what's wrong with you is really what's right with you.
I love that. I think that the whole concept of, I mean, it's very new to me. I recently heard someone say, like, make the list of all the things that are imperfect or wrong about you and realize what the strengths are in each of those things. I mean, it is revolutionary. It goes against what most of us were taught growing up. We were taught that this quality or characteristic is shameful, so you better hide it or transform it, and you better not be it. Because if you are it, then you're not going to get love and affection and attention and acceptance. And so to have somebody like you, Patricia, say, oh, wait, actually, maybe try out those behaviors and see what's so wonderful about them, is amazing permission. And it can also be a little bit scary, because we've had the messaging that says, don't do and be that. So how do you work with that fear that comes up for people when they're stepping into a behavior that they've never really allowed themselves to have before.
People end up being really frightened. It feels really, it can feel very frightening, especially because often what we struggle with is, connected to shame in our childhoods. And what I can share with you is one of the things that comes up for me repeatedly, my little blessing, is that I'm too much. I'm too needy and I'm too much. And that came from being raised with a single parent that felt really overwhelmed and couldn't manage and didn't have the verbal skills to be able to say, Patricia, you're a precious child and I'm just overwhelmed and I can't deal. So when I'm in a solid place, I don't have that. But when I'm pushing and on the edge of growth, which is where I'm at right now, that's for me a lot, and it's really, really hard. What I do with the people that are close to me is I let them know, I'm feeling like I'm needy right now. I'm feeling like I'm needing too much. I just had a friend help me with simple practice over the weekend. It's like I feel needy and dependent, and it's interesting too that often this feeling needy and like I'm much, I seem to attract people that overwhelm. Meaning, like, I had a client send me 13 emails over the weekend. I'm not going to be working with her, but it's a little too much for me. But because I have that sense of being overwhelmed, then I in turn worry that I'm overwhelmed. And so, in fact, it was Melinda. Thanks for being on here, Melinda. Melinda's the one that sat with me on Sunday and helped me with simple practice. But beforehand, I talked to her a couple times and said, I'm feeling needy. I'm feeling like I'm being too much. I sent her a text is this overwhelming for you? Because I get to this place where I can't tell, but I have safe people that I can show up with, and I can say I'm feeling like I'm needy. I'm feeling like I'm too much. And, if you get a good tribe around you, they can mirror back to you that that's not what's going on. I'm still in it, but I think that's really what vulnerability is about. And when you can't be in it, you wait until you're out of it, and then you go back and you can talk about where you were at. Because sometimes that's the best that we can do. We're in it and we can't talk about it. But when we're out of it, then we can kind of go back and share. And sometimes that's not in it anymore.
I love it. And I will say, just as you're talking, I have so many thoughts and ideas going through my head that I want to talk about with you. And I feel like it might be fun to do this again. I also know that there are some serious technical difficulties on my end. I don't know if you're experiencing them. It might be my internet connection. But I would really love to continue this conversation with you.
I would love to. And I get so excited that I kind of talk nonstop. And so I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. Do you need to get off right now, or do you have time to share some of the stuff that's going on that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I just trying to think. There's nothing in particular that I want to open up in this moment, but I will say that it's exciting. I think the one thing that's coming up is the concept of couples therapy and vulnerability, because it's something that is an area of passion for me. So at some point it might be really fun to kind of take some of this discussion about vulnerability and talk about relationship work, whether it's through individual therapy or couples therapy, because it's, I think, at the heart of where healing happens in relationships. So I'll let that be a little cliffhanger for now.
One of the things to think about, I was listening to Brene Brown recently, and she was talking about when we have emotions that are running high, we make up a story in our head about what's going on. And so, even if we reach out to someone and they don't respond in the way that we're anticipating, we make up a story about it. And so if you can at least start being mindful about what's the story that you're making. Sometimes it could be someone has indigestion. They might be, you might be interpreting that they feel angry, but they might have had something for lunch that's not agreeing with them. And, we attach a meaning to things. And so when you're able to check that out, it's kind of amazing when you can do reality checks, because we make up stories about stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes the stories are true. Sometimes if we have a really good connection, we can say, actually, yeah, that thing that you think is happening, I'm reacting to it as if that story is true too. And maybe that's my story. And maybe it's just we're both seeing something that's happening. And most of the time it's 5% in the moment and 95% something from the past that's triggering what's going on emotionally.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I love that we got to do a Facebook Live together, and I'd love to, you know, do it again sometime.
I would love that. And I really would like to hear what you have to say. Yeah, I get impassioned and talk. And I really would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I appreciate you talking because my energy is not nearly as high right now. So, and I like hearing what you have to say. So there's more. I'm sure there's a lot more there. And I think also when there's not as many technical difficulty stuff, it's going to be a little bit easier.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Anybody have any closing comments before we close on out?
Yeah, let's see what people have to say. So Shannon's, oh, I just read Shannon's before, but Shannon says yes. So Melinda says vulnerability as the antidote to shame. Stacy says, wow, Patricia just said on the edge of growth to describe when things are really hard. What an amazing idea to adopt. Thank you. And how cool. Look what you're doing, Patricia, just by being you.
Thanks. I had that sense when I listened to your podcast yesterday. I was really impressed. So it's a mutual admiration club here.
Oh, thank you. And Audra says, thank you, ladies. Hope you feel better, Lauren. Thanks, Audra. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think I just need to drink more water. I think that's why I have a headache. My mom always says that to me. Did you drink enough water? And she's usually right on. I didn't drink enough water.
So it's true, or it's something that we're carrying on. I always say, have you had enough to drink today? So, yeah. All right.
Right. Well, Patricia, time.
Answer.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks. You too. Rest well. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.